I'm creating this proposal for a client on installing the enterprise marketing system to help them sign these enterprise deals. And what I actually found was pretty interesting, so I decided let's make a video out of it. Usually we have this as the enterprise marketing system. If you're interested, there's a few pillars that we go through to generate leads as well as convert those leads to get to landing those enterprise deals. Problem is systems and technology, really. That's usually the main bottleneck to get there. And what I've seen with a lot of companies is that they are either not taking some of these pillars seriously enough, or they just haven't acted on doing them because they don't know how to, or they're worried about brand reputation when they start doing marketing. And all of those are valid concerns. So basically what we do is we just grab this system and we customize it to each company. In this case, we had a company that was relatively new, so we decided to skip out on content or running ads or doing anything crazy like that, and just get the branding right on their website, help with tender bid writing, do lead generation, develop narrative assets, and basically that's it. As well as the SDR work, right? Making sure that we're reaching people because we need to gather attention. So this is what we call the enterprise marketing funnel. And what's important to understand when it comes to enterprise marketing, let's say, is we have, and essentially this goes for any product that you're selling, even if you're selling lipstick or whatever, is that we go through all of these activation points. So a customer or a client, and let's keep talking in the enterprise terms and not the lipstick terms, they need to be made aware of something that they can do and some problem that they may have. Then they need to become interested, which that's really up to them, but they can find ways to become interested on the website or with a particular project overview or a particular piece of content that you've created or with a message. And then the next activation point is to get them on the call and actually convert them, right? But a lot of companies, they understand how to do this part, or there's room for improvement usually, but they usually understand how to convert one client. But they don't really understand how to do this part, or they ignore it because they don't value it enough. But then at some point, the leads are going to dry up here, and you're going to be dependent on continuously reactivating and managing accounts within the existing client base. And though there's nothing wrong with that, I would always recommend actually start with trying. If you want to make money, the first thing you're going to try and do is go to the interest and the conversion stage of your pipeline and try and convert them, right? Like, you're not going to try and generate new attention if you want to make money fast. So to increase your revenue, the first thing you're going to do is go to existing clients, try and reactivate them, try and find referrals, create more case studies out of what we have. And not the first thing you're going to do is see if you can generate more leads. You should always do that. I think you should have a continuous influx of new leads at any stage in your pipeline. And that's what you have a marketing team or agency for. Same with the interest part, actually. But then if the one priority is we need to generate more revenue, let's get something set up like this. The thing that's usually missing here is that a founder will be in charge of this entire funnel at the first stage of a journey, right? You would need to generate leads, convert the attention into interest by having a decent website or having decent content, having decent project overviews, having a decent product really, and an interesting enough solution, working on your positioning, etc. Then we go into the consideration stage where you need to fix sales or you need to understand sales to do it, and then actually delivering on your promises and onboarding your clients, making sure that they're happy with the solution that they're getting. I think this is quite obvious. I think everyone would understand this really. But the next stage becomes outsourcing this or delegating this to the next person on your team. Meaning, or an agency, by the way. I'm an agency, so you can get my help if that makes sense. But what what makes or breaks the funnel here is that the founder will at some point go and worry only about the later stages because it's really about generating the revenue. And somebody else needs to be in charge of generating attention. And the reason for that is that, well, you could technically do it the other way around, right? But the founder knows their product well, the founder knows their prospect well, and so the founder knows best how to sell. So let's call this stage 2 of the journey. The founder starts to only worry about this part and maybe a little bit of input on this part, but the day-to-day operations of the founder should not be in generating attention or generating interest. It should be more high leverage, or it should be about creating content or giving the inputs for that. So for me personally, I'm now creating this video, right? But I'm not continuously sending outbound messages because at some point as a founder, your time should be worth more than sending messages. And that's not to disrespect anyone who is just sending messages as a job, but it just makes sense to keep generating attention through sending messages as long as you have the messaging strategy and the person you want to reach dialed in properly. And that's where that part goes wrong. Because yes, you can hire an agency, but if they don't understand your industry or the type of message that they need to send and the type of person they want to reach, they can send 10,000 cold emails for you every month, but it's just not going to book many people in or only book in unqualified people. That's not to say that volume doesn't matter, it definitely does matter, but I would rather have somebody send 50 to 100 personalized messages in a day than have somebody send 1,000 in a day that don't make sense or don't actually book meetings for me, right? Or will ruin my brand reputation for that matter. So it's very important to kind of go into the top of the funnel and manage it properly. And honestly, when I started doing this, I first messed up, honestly. Like we probably ruined brand reputation for 5 or 10 companies at the start. They wouldn't work with us now for that reason, because we just went about messaging the wrong way or we just sent too many messages. But now we've at least solved that problem and know how to manage it. And now we do it for pretty sophisticated clients. Just a few months later, right? And these are clients who fully depend on their brand's reputation because one of them actually is in design. So, well, if there's one niche where brand reputation is important and where SDR work is actually hard to do, it's design. So all the other industries kind of become peanuts from there since we've already cracked this industry because we're booking in museums, like big museums for them, for example. And that means that we can generate awareness in a quality level or in a quality, let's say, mechanism that doesn't actually hurt your brand reputation, that doesn't actually scare off big prospects, but rather it books them in. So to get people from one stage to another here, it's really a matter of getting your go-to-market strategy dialed in. That's why that's also one of the deliverables that we have in the systems that we implement for clients. We need to segment, target, and position correctly. So that's the STP framework that many people may know from like innovation theory. And then getting the ideal customer profiles right and documenting it to a point where we know what are the pain points and what are the problems that they have. Documenting that, sharing that in the team, verifying it, and just messaging and improving it over time so that we book in meetings. That's what the outbound sales is really all about. But this is also the start for all of the acquisition channels. So once we have the go-to-market blueprint dialed in, we now have a content engine in a way, because we can now create content with the messaging strategies that we have. We can now create a website with the go-to-market blueprint that we have. We can now generate leads, which also can come from the website, based on the messaging frameworks that we have. And this works. I mean, I can go into depth on how we can exactly do this, but it's really a matter of you segment all of the potential clients you can have, you choose which ones you want to actually target or in what priority, and you position correctly. And then there's no way in which things can go wrong. Sorry, there's all motorcycles outside, so I'm gonna pause here for a second. Yes, so window is closed now, should be better. We have this framework now, and now that we have this framework, we have basically already gotten the blueprints right. The only thing what we can figure out now is like at what stage of business are you, and which of these is going to be most important. truthfully, lead generation, ABM, list building, outreach sequences, and let's say also like installing an SDR, in my opinion, always matters. But it especially matters if you're at the stages where you're branching out into a new market or you're trying to essentially get more of your initial leads. Because if you already have case studies, you can use content. And essentially that content can then also go onto your website, used as SEO or from an SEO standpoint. And then it becomes much easier to convert leads that way. Because truthfully, a lot of enterprises, they just have entire teams that have time to look for solutions online, look at which providers are out there, except they usually don't do it in a good way. So that's why marketing is so important, to make sure that they actually find you in the way that they are searching or in the way that they are trying to look for solutions and in the stages of awareness that they're in, really. So what happens here is when we start, we install the SDR. And the reason we start with lead generation over website and content, or let's say outbound sales over website and content, is that we get direct market feedback. And using direct market feedback, we can immediately feed it back into the go-to-market blueprint. And this is a feedback loop that 99% of businesses don't actually properly use, whereas it is pretty easy to do, right? It's just literally getting an SDR to send 100 messages every day to the people you want to reach or the businesses you want to reach. And then whenever you do get negative responses, you just put them back in here, because they'll literally tell you what they want. Honestly, when we first started, we had some guy who actually got really pissed off because I hired an SDR who truthfully wasn't that experienced. And what he did was he reached all of the people in one email. So you would see, you would literally see all of the people in the email. So you would see he's like trying to reach 50 companies at the same time with one email, rather than sending 50 emails or putting them in a sequencer, because he didn't understand how to do that. So he just decided, well, let's send all of those emails at the same time, or in the same email, basically. And well, truthfully, a few people were not happy with that, right? And rightly so. So they were telling us like, hey, I don't like this way that you're doing prospecting, blah, blah, blah. But then with that, one of them actually said, if you were to actually provide me some type of case study, maybe I would have been interested, but the way that you're currently going about business is just very unprofessional or whatever. And he was right, because I had not trained my SDR properly, so I know how to do that now. And truthfully, I knew how to do it back then, but now we actually train our SDRs very properly, and we, as I said, actually have design clients, cartography clients that we reach governments with, or that we reach museums for, reach NGOs for. And that means that it becomes much more important to train your SDR properly. And the feedback that I took from that is, hey, if we indeed have a case study now and we start sending this to people, we tweak the messaging to X, Y, and Z in X, Y, and Z way, then boom, we get much more feedback and we can generate leads in a much more effective way. We will find which pain points matter to which clients, and we can map that in a document. We can then create content out of it. And in a way, you even need your service delivery to be feeding into this go-to-market strategy, because clients will tell you even more than a prospect. Because a prospect has objections, and a client is already a client, and they just have feedback, right? They'll just tell you what they want or what would be preferred, what problems they have, or problems they find in your solution as well. And then also what solutions they found in your solution, or how they are using it, which is very interesting for content, because that means you can then create a very specific case study out of it and onboard the next client based on that case study. That being said, that's why we start with outbound. We get direct market feedback, and we also start with existing clients. And then we can put that into the go-to-market blueprint. Besides, we also make sure that the CRM is connected to your lead generation, so that we do warm outbound to reactivate clients. But we also do cold outbound and make sure that we don't reach existing clients. So that really comes down to the tech stack here as well, where this is really about the technology and the systems we have, rather than the exact pillars or deliverables to get to the end result. In terms of tech stack, you will have your go-to-market document, and then when you start doing outbound, you have quality control you can do in your cold campaigns if you install middleware, so a Zapier agent or a AI agent for that matter, in your Slack channel, and connect that with your CRM. So personally, we use HubSpot, because what can happen is all of the feedback flows will be much faster, because this agent will detect everything that you're saying in Slack or Discord for that matter, write it into the CRM, and have all of the context in the CRM of who your clients are. We don't use this yet for a go-to-market strategy, because we don't have enough context usually that we can get from a CRM. But over time, what will happen is you're reactivating leads, they'll give you replies, you route them into the Slack channel, and they'll be written into the CRM. Because all replies you get from your outbound campaigns will be in HubSpot synced, and AI can create summaries out of it. Besides, you'll have particular people you get on calls. If you're in Google Meet, for example, you can enable Gemini note-taking. It will log the script into the CRM. You'll have the context of the prospect of what they want and use at the moment in terms of software solution. And it will write that data back into, well, the CRM really. Meaning in a next phase where you will tell the agent like, hey, I want to reactivate all of the people with this particular insight that I found. It will read all of the leads who previously on the call told you something similar or could be interested for any other reason. And it can write them into a next outbound sequence, or the SDR can manually reach out to each of them using the actual context that you have of the prospect. And this is the power of a CRM that many people overlook, is that it's not just a matter of tracking who your clients are and sending them some invoices and sending them some messages. It's really a matter of keeping track of context. So any type of communication with your client or with a prospect for that matter should always, at least to a particular extent, but ideally the full messages, logged into the CRM. Because what will happen is there will be people replying negatively, but they will give you feedback. There will be people going on to discovery calls that won't buy, but they'll tell you why. And based on all of that, you can improve your product market fit, and you can improve your message market fit on the outbound campaigns. Meaning you'll be much more effective in marketing, and outbound will actually make sense over time. Plus, you won't have to do it as a founder, because these insights now translate into the rest of your team through the power of AI. But even if you don't have the agent in the middle, at least they can use the CRM to use context to reactivate people. Because if you start working with an agency or a new SDR, what will happen is they will need to read your entire CRM, understand who your clients are, and understand why they are your clients. Whereas if they want to reactivate them and it's not in the CRM, it's really hard to do. So they need a lot of understanding about your prospects to be able to do it properly. And well, if you don't have a CRM where you're not logging this, then it's going to be much less effective for them to do it. That being said, if we do have the CRM and we do have that context, we always have a reason to reach out. Because even if it's been 3 months and we haven't reached out to a prospect because it didn't make sense for them to start working with you back then, we have the reason logged. We know when they talked, we know what they talked about, the account executive or the founder and the person, let's say the prospect. And the SDR now knows in what way to reach out and what the context was of the previous conversation based on the stage that this prospect was in. Because let's say they were already in the consideration stage, maybe they already know the price of the product, for example, or they were already asking about that and that was the main objection, and they just told you, yeah, next quarter we'll have budget again for this because the license with the previous provider will expire. Cool. Then you know it is going to make sense to reach out again. And those are the opportunities that many people lack, or that are essentially dripping through. Well, how do I say this? Like a I think dripping through the cracks or something is the English term, but whatever. You get the point. Like, you're just losing out on those leads and on those opportunities if you don't track the next check-in date, if you don't track the conversation context or the Gemini notes into your CRM. If you have it, the SDR can reach out at somebody who's in this stage of awareness, not trying to kind of like activate them on this activation point, which is actually going to scare them, because now it's like, why are you cold outreaching to me now? But rather, they're executing on the account or reaching them with a message that will make sense for them to go from here to here. And it's not like I'm reaching out to them telling them about what our business does and who we help, because he already knows that from 3 months ago. And yes, there can be a slight element of repetition there, but the main important thing here is that we have the context on the previous conversation. We know why they had an objection on the discovery call or on the demo call. And now we have a reason to convert. Or maybe they're here. Maybe they're here because we put reactivation campaigns at this level. But you get the point. I think that's really all that I had to say about the tech stack in terms of CRM for outbound sales. But then there's another very important element to marketing, which I really like, and that is tenders and RFPs. This is also heavily overlooked. So about 40 to 50% of market revenue comes from front-end sales that go through tenders and RFPs and procurement. And then there's a lot of back-end revenue you can generate out of those deals as well. So what's important to understand is that a lot of governments, but even big enterprises, they will buy solutions based on procurement processes, meaning they'll usually predefine what their solution or what their demand for a solution is. And sometimes that will mean, going back to the funnel here, they will do an RFI first, which means a request for information. And they'll just ask all of the potential providers for, let's say, a GIS solution to tell them what they have to provide and do a little demo, maybe like a short Teams meeting or whatever, or just a conversation. Because what they're trying to do here is they're trying to get insights into what there is into the market and whether they should buy a solution, whether they should buy service, or whether they should just build things in-house, for example. And that means that they're still scoping out the solution that they're looking for. And what they will do next is they'll open up an RFP or RFQ, or maybe multiple over time even. So therefore it's very important to actually participate in the RFI at all times, because you could just be the first vendor they go to with the RFP. Same with the RFQ. So that's the request for a quotation. Makes basically the same thing, really. So yes, I hope that kind of makes sense. In terms of the RFI, make sure to participate at any given moment, unless it's like completely out of scope. But usually I would just recommend participate, because you'll be the first vendor they go to for an RFP. Plus you can kind of convince them of your solution already, because you're already doing sales at this stage, meaning you can already convince them that, let's say, software as a service is better than hiring more consultants, or the other way around, depending on what your market positioning is. And I've actually seen this with this client that we might start working with soon, this prospect I was making a proposal for. They have very good positioning, but they just didn't have the right top of funnel here for people to understand why they would use it. Whereas they have the right positioning for the RFP or RFQ phase, and then you mess up the traffic and lead generation part of sales and marketing. But you get the point. The next stage is that there's RFPs and RFQs, but some of them will actually just be published, especially with government contracts, oftentimes have to be published online. Meaning you have to monitor that properly. And that is another important portion that's essentially top of funnel, you could say, that people forget about and that people forget to use. Because what will happen is, let's say we're at the top of the funnel stage with an RFP because the government is looking for a solution. We need to monitor. So a lot of our clients, they do this, they do monitor, but they do it manually. And what we decided on doing is we definitely need a platform to monitor things write the proposals, and well, get some money on the table, right? Like get some revenue out of it. And then strategically, even if you've already won a few, you can still resell, upsell, retain a client, which also really helps, because usually an RFP will have extension terms. So you want to make sure you get the extension so that you keep the contract, or you can upsell it or win the next contract more easily if they need to publish the next RFP because they're already happy with you as a vendor. Does it sound fair? No, but the world isn't fair. So it is very important to actually just deliver a good service to your clients and making sure that you get the unfair advantage in the RFP. Because yes, they do need to let the solution go through procurement every couple of years, but then they can scope it out in such a way that you as the vendor inevitably win already. So account management is very important in that as well. However, if you're trying to land new bids, or you have to participate in those bids even, you want to make sure that you have some type of platform where you can monitor and write bids that actually win deals. And so building this platform, what we did is we looked at what is the industry average on current performance, and also, well, how much money is going through procurement every year. And why is it important to do? Because it's half of the market. So definitely RFPs are just something you definitely need to put some time into if you want to grow your business, right? Monitoring and bid writing, those are the two main levers we can move. So we will connect all of the platforms you want to participate in and improve using some SOPs, proposal writing, using AI. Your win rates will go up. If we take industry averages, we can go from 47% win rate to 59% win rate and essentially push more volume through this as well. So let's say instead of 20 bids at 50K per year, where we're now already leaving 120K on the table every year, we now, with the power of this platform, the monitoring and AI features, we can actually perform on 30 bids. That's another 180K that we're missing. So another 60K that we've now won because we could do more bids. That is with a 50K deal size. Because we improved the win rate and because we improved the volume of actually writing the bids, and well, obviously those are going to reinforce each other as well. The more bids you win, the more you can participate in, and the more bids you participate in, the more you will win. You get the point. So what we do is in this platform, I'll give you a quick demo of it as well. This is only for current clients at the moment, but maybe later we will turn this into a proper solver. It's going to use AI to support in bid writing altogether. We have some test workspaces here with mock data, and we have all of the opportunities being fed into, let me refresh real quick, there we go, our feed. And since these opportunities come into our feed, we can actually approve them, create projects out of them, and manage those projects properly, making sure that we are not missing the deadline, we're not missing a document on our bids, we're not missing any segments in a document, because AI will actually read the initial documents that the tendering organization, let's say, the buyer, is publishing. It will take all of the information out of those documents and make sure that your input, or rather the output that AI gives you, that will be your input for the bid, actually has all of the elements it has to have. Because yeah, we've seen this with competitors of our clients where they just miss documents, which is funny. But if they miss documents, they will be excluded from the RFP altogether, and probably from future RFPs as well. So being professional with these enterprise clients is very important. Therefore, making sure that you use AI, making sure that you get the most out of monitoring, get the most out of your bid writing as well, is not something you should just see as a B tier business process. This is like a proper business process, you should even have a department for this. If you have like 20 headcount or more in your organization, you should have a department that's just dedicated to bid writing, like 2-3 people, honestly. Even this part, you don't want to have founders do this alone. You want to have experts on this And the same thing goes with what I just described with outbound sales. It's just a matter of repetition, it's a matter of volume, and a matter of improvement. And the more somebody is involved with one business process, and as a founder, you're involved with more than one business process, as you know, or in leadership altogether if you're C-level too. The more somebody else, let's say even if it's a B-tier player, the more they're involved with one business process, the better they're going to perform, and they'll be happy performing on just one business process. If you have an A player, they'll want to do more, and they'll want to take care of more of these processes altogether. So the next stage becomes making sure that you actually have multiple people on each department. Content department, sales department, let's say even a lead generation department if you don't scale those in one, let's say outbound sales team, and then fourth one is going to be your procurement department, or like tender department, you could say. And again, there can be some overlap in those, but people want to specialize, and people should specialize if you want to perform well. And then the expectations for your team are also going to be much easier to actually win. So I actually took a sample here, let's say Acme Construction, industry, construction, 50 to 200 employees, UK. We connected a couple of platforms, Tender EU, Find a Tender UK, Contract Finder UK, and a couple more. And using this information, we can view the tenders that come in from each platform, but we can also see one holistic view of all of the tenders coming in. And with that information, we can now approve which tenders we want to participate in. The tenders we approve become projects, and we can manage them. We can then also get analytics and reports out of how well we're performing if we're indeed bidding on more bids over time as well. Currently, this platform we're using for clients on delivery, and we give access to them, to their workspace, so that they can get insights in how we are performing. But for the most part, this is custom builds as well, because some platforms might not be supported for some clients yet. So this is really a standalone solution that we don't. It's not a standalone solution. It's a standalone solution for existing clients of ours that we work with. This is not a solution that we publish to the entire market just yet, for multiple reasons, mainly competition for our clients, right? You see integration, so you can also integrate the CRM. And as soon as you have your CRM integrated, that means that you don't do outbound to existing procurement. So this was really manual work for us when we were doing ABM for a client of ours in the insurtech space. They were doing RFIs and RFPs here and there, so we had to manually mark off which leads we did not want to participate in. Now I can just go on my phone while I'm in a meeting. I can send a message in the Discord or the Slack. We use Discord actually, but you can use Slack. Send a message there, and the Zapier agent will just immediately update it in HubSpot and synchronize the outbound tools to not include anyone that is currently involved with an RFP as a prospect, so that we're not sending cold outbound to mess up our RFP. Again, quality control, very important. Besides, same thing works for syncing your CRM with your outbound tools. Existing clients as well that you've already won the RFP with or that you've done direct sales with, you don't want to reach out to them, right? Like, obviously. So, same thing goes. Don't reach out to them. We make sure that the agent can actually run quality control on Lemlist, your outbound campaign, and sync that back into HubSpot, making sure that HubSpot has all of the context, but you only use it in terms of outbound for warm outbound and account-based marketing, account execution. Lemlist you then use for cold outreach, and sequencing you can even use for sequencing warm outbound, but that way you're not putting people in a cold outbound campaign when doing outbound. And your SDR always has context in the CRM, which this is the perfect setup in my opinion. Knowledge base. I won't go into the guides, but there's good SOPs here, let's say, good win rates. Some clients have 70 to 80% win rates. Some clients have, I wouldn't know the exact numbers, but I think we went from 5 to 10% win rates because they have a more aggressive strategy when it comes to bids, and they use even more of the AI features as well to do more bids. But there's some sauce in the templates, let's say. AI writer. These usually go by project level, but you can technically write proposals here too. Even if they're like direct acquisition, you can use it for that. But you want to make sure that you are covering everything that is related to the project as well. So you can generate a proposal here, put it in a project, and then have AI verify if you've indeed taken care of everything that the tendering, buying organization is asking for. Whether that be ROI projections and payment terms and budget overview, or whether that be about the team, whether that be about the actual tech stack, cost breakdown, implementation plan, security, compliance as well. You get the point. So that's what the platform does, and that's what the platform is about. If you're interested in that, you can go to tenderer.com and sign up to the waitlist, or you can go to our website, locatixmarketing.com or locatix.io, and you'll find even more of the systems there. So I hope this has been a valuable video. I hope it shed some lights on what this funnel looks like, how you can actually start delegating your work as a founder or C-level executive, and what the tech stack should be to be able to delegate, because ultimately that's what this is all about. Getting technology set up so that we need less people, but also getting technology set up so that you need to do less of the work and can grow your business. Simple. And then if you're interested, you can also get on the call with me, and you can hear a little bit more about what we do with content, what we do with outbound sales specifically, and what other options are here for the tech stack, because you might have your own CRM, you might need a RevOps dashboard, you might have other synchronizations you want to do with accounting tools. Can support with all of that. Anyhow, I'm going to finish up the proposal, and I'll see you guys in another video. I appreciate you for watching.